We can start with, how did you guys have this conversation at first? And obviously, Lex is that sex chick, so it probably started there. But, what was the beginning of realizing that you guys wanted something different and non-conventional? And what were those conversations like?
Yeah, so we had them right away, essentially. I have this philosophy where it's like, if you can ruin it, good. If it's possible to ruin something within reason, assuming that you're a fairly reasonable, rational, mature human being, then good. But hiding or being afraid to have those challenging, uncomfortable, awkward conversations, it's just never served my highest purpose. And so we both, going into this relationship, we're like, this is by design. We're going to create this by design. We're going to have those challenging conversations early and often. And so this was one of them. And for me, I had never been in any sort of open relationship, any element of openness. And somewhat of the classic influences, traditional values, again, Christianity and some of those things growing up. The idea of it was just like, well, I'll say the idea of it was intriguing, like obviously.
Yeah.
I think my judgment is that for men in particular, the idea of an open relationship is like, wow, oh my goodness, yes. And so I recognize that part of myself that is, I would say, a little immature in that regard. And the more mature, grounded part of myself is intrigued by, can this be something that can be really healthy, healing, and enhance our connection and relationship? Is that possible? And my glamorized ideal version of it is yes, I think it can be. And that being said, we have been very aware around making sure that it is coming from that place. If we're going to have any level of openness in our relationship, it's not coming from a place of desperation or obligation. It's coming from a place of desire and appreciation that is serving the highest good of the entity of our relationship, because we have a determined, established, committed to the long haul of spending our lives together and raising kids and all those kinds of things. And anything that's going to compromise that is not worth the short-term climax, if you will, literally and metaphorically. And so we've taken it very slow, and that's been great. And sort of similar to you, we've had a few threesome experiences, and all of them essentially have been organic, where it's just it's come up. And we had already had those conversations around, we are open to another woman if it feels aligned, being in our dynamic for a night. And those have all been great experiences. And I'll share one of them specifically. This was about a year and a half ago. We met someone at Lollapalooza in Chicago, the music festival. It was just Lex and I there, and we were having just a great time, the two of us. And as the evening started to arrive, because we just went for one day, a hot minute, we said, you know what? And it was this really beautiful, both of us just brought it up. It was like we both thought about it, felt it, shared it. Like, are we open to playing with someone tonight? Like, do you want to, at the very least, let's find a squad to hang out with and just have fun tonight. And are we open to maybe having a little something? And we were both like, fuck yeah. We're open
little
to that.
Extracurricular activity.
Exactly. And it was just this very fun, playful overflowing of we're open to that. Not attached to it, but open. And within, 15, 20 minutes, it just started to present itself and unfold in this beautiful, again, kind of synchronistic way. And we got connected with this group, started just jamming out, vibing with them, watching a show. And there's this beautiful kindergarten teacher. I won't give away more than that, but just a little fun nugget there.
Yeah.
And she, without us saying anything, and there was no perceivable promotion, you could say, of us that were open or any of that stuff.
You didn't have the sign that said looking for threesome tonight.
Exactly. Not like we were bringing it up in the conversation of after having just met these people. But she randomly asks Lex the question, are y'all open? And it just flowed from there. And we ended up having a beautiful night together. And it wasn't all rainbows and butterflies. It was a little clunky and awkward because we kind of chased the high late into the night. And as that goes, sometimes it just, the energy has sort of passed, but we're not ready to let it go. So we're going there.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
We all have, right? It happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
And one little piece that I'll share specifically around this is we went into that night with the agreement that I am not going to penetrate the woman. Like if this happens, I'm not going to have P and the V penetrative sex.
Right. Okay.
And I think this is an important thing to underscore here. As we got into the experience, things are hot and heavy, the energy's high. The opportunity was like there, it presented itself. And Lex was open to me penetrating her. And I held the firm boundary of no, which is not an easy thing for me to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, so anyway, all that to say, I think it's so important to not get wrapped up in the heat of the moment. And I was very aware, and trust me, again, you could say conscious fuck boy, part of myself was like, I would love to fuck this beautiful woman. Like this is as good as it gets. Let's go, But the higher part of myself was like, no. It's not worth it. This temporary gratification is not worth what could happen. It's not to say anything would have happened, but that was part of me just being committed to and part of my growth and our path of we're in no rush. We have our entire lives to have these kinds of experiences if we want, and it's not worth compromising that.
Got it. What sort of had you decide that beforehand and set up that boundary for yourself? Had it never happened before, would this have been the first time?
Correct. Yep. And it still has not happened.
Okay. So that's been your boundary.
That has so far. Yeah. And that's always an open conversation. And for us, that's monogamish. It's, monogamish is in the eye of the beholder, you could say, because that can mean a lot of different things. And it can be really open and flowy, or it can have very specific boundaries and things that are renegotiated and reassessed over time. And that's very much where we're at. But we have these handful of things like, this is where we're at with this. But I think for me, the greatest gift in monogamish has been we can have any conversation. And in previous relationships, that was not the case. I lived in fear of even having platonic relationships with a woman I was attracted to. And it wasn't even necessarily my partner's fault. It wasn't like they were pushing that energy on me. It was just my own insecurities of like, I feel like I couldn't trust myself to be friends with a woman that I was attracted to. And so that's been a huge healing growth opportunity for me in the relationship with Alexa. Is like, that's okay. I'm a man and I could be attracted to a beautiful woman and still be friends with her, even have some level of sensual exchange. That's been beautiful.
That's incredible. Well, thank you for sharing, because I think that's one of the most, and you said I'm a man and I can be attracted. And it's like, you're also human.
Yeah.
We have these biological responses that we literally can't control, right? The physiology in your body does what it does. If you're attracted to someone, you're going to have a response. Doesn't matter if you identify as a man, woman, whatever, anything in between. And I think that the majority of people who, are trying to fit into a monogamous box end up denying this biology for most of their lives, if they're in committed relationships. And I've said this before, but imagine like what that does to your personal integrity to just be continually like denying yourself and like eroding that which is your basic human nature. And I just can't fathom living a life where, like you said, you not only, you're living in fear because you can't trust yourself, but that breeds shame, that breeds like all sorts of, things about the self. And then with your partner, it's like, how could you really be authentic if you can't even say that guy's hot? Like
absolutely.
It's so interesting once you're sort of on this side of things. Not that there are sides, but once you have a perspective shift, looking back, I was similar to you. I had like an instance in college where I felt like I was emotionally cheating because I was spending a lot of time with this guy that I was attracted to, of course, and nothing physical ever happened. But I was like, oh, I can't do that ever again. And that girl she just didn't know any better. It was just denying myself a beautiful platonic relationship. And then I didn't eventually. And then I felt guilty for it, which was crazy because I wasn't doing anything wrong. But wow, you're really strong, like for holding that boundary, because especially hearing you say, if we can backtrack, like Lex was into it. She would have been like, okay, we can renegotiate this boundary in the moment. But I think it's really amazing, and it shows your commitment to your own growth. But also what I love and what I want people to sort of take away is, what's the rush? You guys are going to be together, for the rest of your lives. And you making these choices to go really slow and to realize that this is such a journey. Like the threesome is hopefully not ever going to be the end destination.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a lot of listeners who are like, how do I start out? How do we try this out? I don't want to fuck it up. Go slow, because this can develop over time beautifully. And they're always like, well, Jessica, you sound like you have it all figured out. This is 8 years in, right?
Yeah.
In the beginning, we did a lot of this, like, let's just like make out, right? And then, we'll stop there. And you can go very slowly and explore, because when you just go right to the finish line, you miss so much of the beauty and so much of the excitement. It's like that beginning time of falling in love. Like you never get that back. So it's really fun to experience that with other people, whether it's just physical or, also it can be emotional, to just relax. Like there is no rush.